Welcome to the Voice of America, Randy. And first of all, I mean, what an honor it is to have you here. All the Juno Awards, all the millions and millions of albums sold. You have performed with so many different artists and paved the way for so many rock artists in the last decade or so because of your band. That must feel pretty good.
It was a struggle, but we were a bunch of teenage kids from Winnipeg with a dream. Burton Cummings, myself, Randy Bachman, C.F. Turner, Neil Young, we all had the same dreams. We had seen Elvis on TV, and by then we were like 13 or 14, 12. Later, the Beatles, and Elvis being a truck driver, you know what I mean, from wherever he was from, Louisiana, who moved to Memphis. The Beatles coming from Liverpool, different working class orphans, you know what I mean, split a family. And we thought, gee, if these guys can make it, we can make it. You just get a guitar and you do not accept no for an answer. It's not in your vocabulary. You don't accept defeat or failure. All you accept is a timeline and maybe how long it's going to take you to get there. And you deal with every obstacle as it comes and you overcome it, and you don't break up because you have this lifelong dream. And most of us started music lessons as kids at 5 or 6 years of age. Wasn't on a guitar. Mine was on a violin, classical violin. Burton Cummings was, on classical piano. Neil Young was accordion, do you know what I mean? And then when it was Elvis or the Beatles that steered you towards a guitar. As with zillions of other musicians out there in the world. If you talk to Sammy Hagar or Ted Nugent or whoever, it was like Elvis or the Beatles or both of them. And then 5 or 6 years later, the next wave, which was Hendrix, the power trios, Hendrix, Cream, The Who, you know what I mean, and Zeppelin kind of thing. And so we all have the same kind of influences and dream. And it's just, it's amazing now to be here in 2010, pushing into 2011, just coming back from High Voltage Festival and Sweden Rocks and playing with Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses and seeing Jimmy Page there and playing with Dweezil Zappa. There's this new thing, but also playing with Def Leppard and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Almost everybody is back and out of the days, and by days I mean D-A-Z-E, the days of retirement. Like, aren't we supposed to retire? We're in our 60s. No, why should we retire from something we really love doing? And the phone ringing saying, do you want to come out and play? Do you want to do a new album? So coming out with a new Bachman-Turner album in September seems to be quite timely, although it wasn't timed. It was an evolutionary thing. And I see now there's a new Steve Miller album out, and there's a new Doobie Brothers album coming out, and we're all coming out with new product. And there's something new for classic rock radio to play, because they were getting, to put it frankly, stale. They were playing the same playlist of 350 songs, and you'd hear the same songs every 3 hours. You'd turn on, you'd hear the same song 12 minutes after the hour. Now they can play that song and a new song and kind of breathe new life into radio. I think the age might be coming back of the DJ who's got a personality. Do you remember we listened to Cousin Brucey and Wolfman Jack? And, You know what I mean? And Alan Freed, the Dick Clark every Saturday morning on Bandstand. That's kind of coming back. It's going back to local radio again and supporting local young bands, indie bands, rather than the I don't want to put them down. The things that have 100 stations that you can listen to, all blues and all rock and all this, and nobody comes on and says what the song is. You don't even know what you've heard, and there's no personality of DJ. It's not bad for a music service if you're waiting to get in to see your dentist, But I miss, and I'm glad to see it coming back. The personality of the DJ, the wacko guy who said, "Hey man, here I am. I'm crazy. Let's get crazy for 3 hours," and you listen to him every day because he brings you this relief and 3 hours of craziness that's so important to your life.
Well, we try to do that here on this program.
Good.
Within the confines of this padded room. But we've got Randy Bachman in our studios here on the Voice of America. And what an honor it is to have you in our studios. I spoke with you. I was telling you this off the air. I spoke with you in the 80s in Detroit when I was working in Detroit. And there was a lot more of you then. You're a lot thinner.
Oh, yeah. And so same with Turner. I'm back with him together. I think, I lost 150 pounds. He's lost about 120. So we've lost a couple of people.
Wow. Well, that's great. You look great. I mean, you're looking better and better and better.
Actually, we are actually in better shape than we were in the late 70s because we were in a tour bus for like 5 years. It's like that was pretty much when junk food was invented. I mean, real, you know what I mean? And then franchised. I mean, you could get junk food all the time, but now it's franchised. You can get the same junk food in every city or little town. We got off a lot of that, and we're eating pretty much healthy.
And you had mentioned, that you have a new album coming out in September, and I kept trying to find the name of the album, and I couldn't.
It's just us. It's Bachman and Turner.
Bachman and Turner.
Or Bachman and Turner.
Bachman.
Well, they used to say Bachman-Turner Overdrive a lot because the head of our label, when he signed us in the 70s, was German. So he would say Bachman. So when he sent out a press release, he actually put in parentheses BOCK-MA on how to pronounce my name. But in Canada, we say Bachman.
With all the things that you've done, if you could look back, I mean, the Juno Awards, the different honors, the albums, the sold-out shows, the festivals. A few years ago, you played, I guess, the Bob Geldof's Live Festival in Canada. Yeah. So, what's been the highlight for you? If you could single out a moment or a time or something that was a big...
It's hard to pick one, but one that really stands out was the SARS Fest, when they had that SARS, plague or contagious thing going around and everybody getting sick. And then it was kind of over, but they wanted to show it was over. And this was in Ontario. The Ontario government decided to put on this festival with the Rolling Stones. This was Mick Jagger's idea. Let's put on the SARS Fest and show that we've got control of this epidemic and that everybody's okay and we're all healthy again. And who's going to play on SARS Fest? Well, it was the Stones, Close It, AC/DC, and I was fortunate enough to play that with the Guess Who. I'd reformed with them, and so we'd been together a couple of years. And luckily, I got asked to do some of my songs, even though it was in the context of the Guess Who. So in the middle of that, there's 500,000 people. It's the largest paid festival of all time. So there's like 497,000 people there. And to do Taking Care of Business. And I always say, I want to hear some noise. Clap your hands. And to see 1 million hands come up in the air clapping, as far as I can see, because I'm 6 feet, and an inch or something, to be on a 20-foot stage, so my eyes are at about 25 feet high, as far as I could see back and left and right, the horizon, that's pretty high from, that high up. Nothing but people and hands in the air clapping to my song. And when I said, I want to hear some noise, and they screamed and they said, Taking Care of Business, that was that was the most amazing feeling I've ever had for this one split second in the whole world, I have control somehow, magically, for all these people. And I say, make some noise, make more noise. They make more noise. And it was just amazing. That's hard to ever live down. And my daughter, who was young and watching from the side, said, and this is the summertime, Dad, it looked like a giant package of McDonald's French fries. You know how the fries stick up? To see 1 million hands up, because all you could see was the arms up clapping, right? It's pretty amazing. Well, I told you that story. I'll just give you a bit of it now. To play the other inside the Iron Curtain, a couple of hundred guys, not one woman there. It was a BTL thing. It was like a guy thing. And to have these guys come to the front of the stage and be in tears, not because they just slammed their hand in the door, they're actually heart sobbing. I mean, tears, and banging their head at the same time and beat to the song. And when it was over, I talked to them and they said, you have no idea what your music and the Voice of America meant to us. In Czechoslovakia or in Russia, wherever we were behind the Iron Curtain, we couldn't listen to music. We had to gather in a basement or an attic and have a little radio and listen to rock and roll. That meant freedom to us. And you don't have no idea how lucky you are. You want to play in a band and you want to scream, American Woman, stay away from me? You can go and scream that and they don't lock you up. They play it on the radio. It's amazing. You have no idea what rock and roll means to us. At that moment, I had an idea of what rock and roll meant to them. I went to the promoter and said, I said to the guys, what did you pay to get in here? And they said, 40 Deutschmarks and the other currency, which was Russian. I don't remember what it was. It worked out to be $40 or $50. And I said, so what do you make a week? And they said like 35. So I said, you had to save money? Yeah, we had to save for 2 months to get into your show. And I went to the promoter and I said, look, I don't want any money for tonight. Would you give these guys back all their money? And so they got a real taste of what freedom was, because to them, this was like money to eat. To me, it was like money to buy another guitar. Do you know what I mean? And just to give them back the money and say, thank you so much for coming. I had no idea my music meant this to you and that all rock and roll meant this to you. And the Voice of America and the Voice of Canada, how free we are here to do what we want to do. People just don't realize it.
Are you still hosting a radio show?
I do. It's on every Saturday night on CBC, cbc.ca. You can get that on a computer. And Sirius Satellite 137. And it's 2 hours of classic rock music.
You come in with your guitar?
I tell my story of meeting Jimmy Page or meeting Elvis Presley or meeting Brian Wilson and what I did on a tour bus with them. And then I play their music. And so it's an intro to the song you've never, ever heard before. I never will hear again. It's my own personal story because I've been on tour for 40-something years.
Yeah,
and
oh
I've
my
really
gosh.
played with a lot of guys. And the show's now in its 5th or 6th year. And we just got a 3-year renewal. And it's fun. My wife and I do it together. And she helps me out a lot because I remember the stories, but not the actual dates. A lot of things happen. I have a vague remembrance of when it was. And so she helps a lot with that. So it's something we do together, and it's great. She answers every single email that comes in.
Wow.
And that's a lot of work. And the show's expanding all the time. We're getting more and more listeners all the time.
And for people around the world who want to tune in, you said online?
Oh, it's called Randy's Vinyl Tap. You just
Okay.
punch up one long word, Randy's Vinyl Tap.
Okay.
CBC radio.ca, and up will come a map of Canada, and you just put Radio 1 and punch up Randy's Vinyl Tap, and it'll say when it's on. So you can listen within a 4-hour span, because Canada being 4 time zones,
Right,
it's
right,
on
right.
at 7 o'clock at night, but basically 7 at night is like, you know what I mean? It's later
Yeah,
in
different
Hawaii,
times all
or
around the world, sure.
it's 4 in the afternoon if you're West Coast time. So you can find it, and it's repeated on Sunday and repeated on Friday. So we got 3 repeats during the week, and on Sirius 137, it's repeated 5 or 6 times.
That's
You
great.
just got to punch up, and once you find it, you'll pretty much hang in and be a regular listener.
So people around the world, if you have a chance to check Randy's show out online, you can go online. It could be all different times because obviously your 14-hour time difference between here
Now
and
we've got
Japan.
it, so they're down. You can download. You can listen to them and downstream them. So
Right,
you can
right,
find
right.
there's like 5 years of shows there. You can see each show has a theme. So one will be Fender guitars, where I'm featuring a Stratocaster and Telecaster, and I tell about meeting Leo Fender and
Wow.
and Jeff Beck, and play the music, that kind of thing. So you can get to those.
And you mentioned you met Elvis. What was that like?
I never met Elvis.
Oh, you didn't meet Elvis.
That's the story.
Oh, that you didn't meet him.
Well, I played violin as a young kid, classical violin. I saw Elvis on Ed Sullivan, and what is that? It's rock and roll. Well, that's all right, that kind of thing. And
Right.
what is that? And who's that guy behind him? Oh, that's Scotty Moore, and he's going. And Elvis is going, that's all right. But here's the guy going. And I wanted to play like the guy behind him, because I knew I couldn't be an Elvis. I couldn't do that thing. I was a shy kid. And so I learned to play the Scotty Moore kind of guitar. I get in a band. I write a song called Taking Care of Business. It becomes Elvis's theme, TCB. I saw a special on the Graceland that Priscilla was hosting, and she mentioned how they were in the taxi going to the airport in LA to fly back to Memphis, and Elvis heard this song on the radio. He said, "Turn it up." And she was taken care of business by some Canadian group. She didn't name us, but it was obviously was us. And Elvis said, "I want that as my motto, TCB. Lightning bolt right away, TCB. You'll be the TCB band. You guys will be the TCB group." He had this group of guys that were always with him. And that became his motto. And many years later, we got invited to Vegas to meet Elvis, and I wasn't told. And Turner wasn't told. But the other guys in our band,
Overdrive met him.
the other guys went.
Oh, my gosh.
And apparently the first thing Elvis said when we walked in the room is, "I want to meet the guy who wrote Taking Care of Business." I wasn't there. I had said to the band, "I want to get off the road and not tour anymore," because we'd been away like 300 days that year, and I've got to go home and see my wife and kids who have never seen me. And so they took that as license to not invite me to this special invite to Vegas, which happened really quickly in a 2 or 3 day span. Elvis is playing Vegas, wants to meet the BTO, the guy who wrote Taking Care of Business. So I never met him.
Oh, what a shame.
I just met, though, the guy who did Elvis, the Cirque du Soleil that's going to open in Vegas very soon.
Right.
And he told me the last day, and this has only ended about a month ago, and I was playing Canada Day, July 1st at Prince Edward Island, Charlottetown, which is our
Sure, your
birthplace
4th of
of the
July, yeah.
nation kind of thing.
Yep.
And he said, they called us all around on behalf of Elvis and gave us all a little TCB necklace, and they played us a song. And I said, "Did they play you Taking Care of Business?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "I heard that Elvis had recorded that song, but it's never been released." He said, "Yes, they probably never will release it. It's not that good. But for us to hear it,"
Right.
because it's Vegas.
Sure. And it's Elvis.
I said, "I've got to hear this." And he said, "Okay, I'll give you the guy's name. When they open in Vegas, you can go there. He's the head of Elvis Presley Enterprises now, and he'll play you the song." So I never met Elvis. I wanted to. People now come back from Graceland, and they got a T-shirt that says TCB on it, or a mug that says TCB. They brought me a license plate, Taking Care of Business, TCB. And like, that's my song. And so they have that kind of trademark and copyright, and nobody else can use it except me, who wrote the song. So I still have this ongoing thing with Elvis. And honestly, I wanted to be Elvis. I mean, I had the Brill cream, the Vaseline hair, and the waves and everything. My mother would catch me in the bathroom in front of the mirror with a guitar, trying to do the Elvis stuff. And when you're playing guitar, when you're used to being a violin player,
Right.
you have to get the Elvis, the looseness and the stance kind of thing. And I think everybody out there who's a guitar player will agree. When nobody's in the house, you go in front of the mirror and you try to copy a John Lennon or a Jimmy Page or a Hendrix. You got to get some moves. You just can't stand there.
Right.
Yeah. So.